All right, so we are live. Welcome back, everyone, to On-Chain Gaming. My name is Jake, and today is a really exciting live stream because I am joined once again by Jeffrey Jiho Zerlin, who is the growth lead for Axie Infinity and one of the co-founders of Axie Infinity. So Jiho, thank you so much for joining. It's always a pleasure having you, and congratulations, honestly, on the crazy success of Axie Infinity. It's been a cool journey going from the very first interview when Axie had like less than 20,000 daily players, and you guys were really trying to find your authenticity, like proving to people that this is all legit. To the second interview where literally Axie Infinity was going viral and the servers were breaking down, and we talked about that. And honestly, you guys solved both of those problems and successfully moved forward. I think the servers are a lot better now. So I'm glad that you agreed to join me for this third interview now, which is titled, "Is Axie Infinity Still Worth Starting?" The idea being, is there still a good value proposition for new players that are thinking about buying Axies and jumping into the Axie ecosystem? So, hi, Jiho.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me. Congrats on the growth of your channel. It's been awesome. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
thanks
Yeah.
for thanks for having me again. And yeah.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure having you on. So I guess a good place to start is just give me an idea for like how the Sky Mavis team is feeling internally right now. What's the mood inside of Sky Mavis? What's the feeling about the current state of the game and the progress towards future releases?
Yeah, and we're so excited for the future. We are preparing to gear up for kind of a flurry of launches that I think is going to allow us to get to the next level, make Axie more fun, more accessible, more rewarding for our amazing community.
Mhm.
We are adding a lot of team members right now, so more game designers, product people who are really going to be able to upgrade the experience for the entire community. Yeah, like it's been right now we're growing steadily. We've definitely like you know there's always some new development in the Axie universe, right? Like obviously
Mhm.
we just tried to deploy a new patch. It was a little bit rocky. We just made some adjustments to the earning system
Mhm.
that I think people had a lot of feedback on.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're upgrading, we're changing, we're moving. We're still here. We'll
Mhm.
still be here for the
Uh,
forever.
you
Yeah.
guys just finished a big funding round as well. Explain that a little bit, and also like how much hiring has been going on behind the scenes. As someone on the outside, it's
Mhm.
sometimes a little bit hard to know exactly how Sky Mavis as a company is growing
Mhm.
and how all that's panning out.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we maybe be able to provide more insight into over time in the future. So yeah, right now we're around 70 people on Sky Mavis, and the big funding round, right? This is all to make sure that we have the firepower to keep churning out amazing content,
Hmm.
to make new game modes, to make the existing content better, to make the economy more rewarding, um, yeah, basically to make Axie more fun.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I think everything yeah, so that was the general
Hmm.
idea behind the funding announcement. It's going to allow us to be here, right? Like, and make sure that we're here for the community
Hmm.
building for a very very long time.
Okay, so can you give like any numbers about like how many new people have been hired in the past, I don't know, month or several months, and like what teams specifically
Mhm.
you guys have been hiring new people for?
Yeah, I mean, so we're hiring across art, engineering, product, game design, uh, as well as like growth and business.
Hmm.
We're averaging around 10 new employees per month, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, it's some weeks it's more, some weeks it's less.
Hmm.
We're basically hiring across across everything pretty aggressively.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's good news. And I mean, there's a massive treasury now that's formed for AXS. Are there any thoughts on when like the AXS shareholders are going to start voting on like how to start spending some of what's in the treasury or anything along those lines?
I would say that my best estimate is for some point next year.
Okay. All right. Cool. I
Uh,
mean,
we it definitely, right. Like, I mean, that's also the staking rewards are quite high right now, and
mhm,
theoretically, what would happen is, if the staking rewards drop over time, we'd start using the treasury to offset that drop, and make it right so that people continue to stake their access.
mhm.
That's the general idea behind the treasury. I think part of it. But yeah, I can't actually give any guarantees. That's also how we've designed it. Is right. I think it's up to the community eventually, once we introduce governance,
Mhm.
to figure out how to unlock those rewards.
Mhm. Okay, cool.
And yeah, I also like I would not call them shareholders.
That's yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So so you guys recently made this change. You mentioned it. So that those who are under 800 MMR or fall below 800 MMR can no longer earn any SLP for winning PvP matches, and can also not earn SLP from the daily quest or adventure mode. So I guess my question is twofold. One, what was like the thought process behind why you guys made this decision? And then second, do you think it could disincentivize new players from wanting to join Axie Infinity because of a fear that like if they pick the wrong Axies, or they're like they can't compete at a high enough level when they first start playing, they're not going to be able to earn anything? Could it increase the barrier to entry for new players?
Sure. So basically, we introduced a an update where people under 800 MMR would not be able to, complete the daily quest and earn SLP
Mm-hmm.
rewards, right? So basically, what we saw is that, we looked at a lot of data and we saw that there were many bots, basically gaming accounts that were, right, like using scripts to play without actually having a human there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing a lot of bots that were basically abusing the system. And one of the ways that they would abuse the system is by, right, they would do the PvE, but then in order to complete the daily quest, they would just they would do PvP. They would just tank their MMR, right? Just because, like, a bot cannot be a human that understands what's going on, and these bots would be playing against each other and hoping to just play against other bots and get one win, right? So they're
Mm-hmm.
basically they were really abusing the reward system, and in the long run, that would actually cause SLP to be worthless.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, like, what are the so let's kind of take a step back, right? Like, what are the ways that we can make sure that the price of in-game rewards, SLP one of them,
Mm-hmm.
being one of them, right? Like, are actually worth something, right? So first, right, like, we can increase demand or we can increase difficulty to produce, right? So
Mm-hmm.
basically, what was happening is these bots were, for them, SLP was incredibly easy to produce because of an exploit in the system, and basically this, over the long run, would basically have been a parasite that could have destroyed our economy.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that also, right? Like, some people might be a little bit nervous around, oh, like, I don't want to drop my MMR too much, and that's something that we'll watch data around. Our stance is that 800 was a point where, right, if someone is thinking and trying to master and trying to become a great player,
Mm-hmm.
and actually putting in honest effort, that they should be able to maintain pretty easily an MMR over 800.
Mm-hmm.
There may be some edge cases, but every policy that we implement is always going to have winners and losers, and edge cases. There's going to be, it's just like in real life, right? Like, there's always going to be winners and losers. However, we have to deal with existential threats that could destroy the economy
Mm-hmm.
very seriously.
Okay.
So,
So I want to push back a little bit on two fronts. So on one front, as a League of Legends player for a really long time, there are some people that literally just are not as good at video games, but they still bought their Axies. Maybe they didn't buy a good team either, and like they are never going to be able to compete at a professional level. Like, yeah, it's possible they can improve, get a little bit better, and move beyond 800 MMR. But there have always been hundreds of thousands of people in League of Legends stuck in bronze and silver, and they're real people that really enjoy the game, but they're just not very good. So I feel like there's a risk of like quite a few people being alienated from this. I know personally there's a couple scholars that I have that are just below 800 and now trying to climb up, and like some of them, they're probably not the best players. I can probably make more tutorial videos and like help them improve. So that's one side of the pushback that I'd like you to talk about a little bit. But then the other side of the pushback is like AI has already shown it can get better. It can get pro level at games like Dota. It can get better than the best professional players at chess. So do you feel like raising the MMR is a long-term solution, or is there some other kind of long-term solution that's going to have to be came up with eventually to stop botting? Because obviously botting is a big problem that needs to be addressed and it needs to be solved. But since artificial intelligence can cause bots to get even better than human players, is this a long-term solution?
Yeah, and I think like long term, it's definitely a cat and mouse. Cat and mouse. There are there are certain solutions to Sybil stuff that's being developed right now in research. Right, the idea is you want to be able to prove that someone is a unique human without taking any invasive information. Right, so it could be something where like you do. It's difficult to, but it's basically every human could like put something. It could be like maybe their like their knuckle pattern through a algorithm that spits out something that's like unique to them, but cannot be traced back to them. Anyways, there's a lot of research around that. Long term, like we'll need stuff like that. So I would say like are there AIs that have been developed to play Axie Infinity yet? I'm not sure. I don't think so. In the future, will there be? Possibly, probably. But building an AI is a lot harder than building a bot, right? So what we're trying to do with this change is basically get rid of the low hanging fruit, which is basically just to build a bot. And around the players, like who are not as skilled, like I understand that there might be edge cases, but they're also like I think they're also really amazing scholars, who want to get into the game. This is a game, right? So we have to reward skill and mastery more. It can't be just like a participation trophy type of system. There has to be some difficulty in creating SLP, or it will just or these in-game resources will just trend towards their difficulty, which could be zero, could be zero in the long run.
Yeah, and
so we have to make sure that there is still some skill and mastery, right? I don't think that we're not like trying to design equality of outcomes, right? We're trying to we believe in equality of opportunity, but not equality of outcomes, right? This is a game. Certain people are going to be better at games, and they're going to be able to earn and earn more. If they're not great at games, then maybe they'll still be able to play for fun. And like it's just we cannot guarantee that someone, regardless of their ability, is going to be able to earn an X amount of SLP. Being able to do that doing that would not be healthy and would crash the economy in the long run. And they can still do PvE each day, and they should be able to get I think 50 SLP without completing the daily quest, right?
So, okay. So let's move on a little bit. I understand where you guys are coming from, and I feel like if this change in the short term knocks out like 80 or 90% of bots, like it makes sense why you guys would do it, if it's an effective tool to solving a really big problem right now. But let's talk about the value of SLP a little bit, because I feel like that's the other reason why you guys did it, to try and decrease the amount of supply of SLP that was going into the ecosystem to help the price a little bit. Because when the price of SLP is higher, obviously that helps all players and helps the value proposition of joining Axie Infinity. I'm just worried that this change doesn't solve the underlying value issue with SLP, which is the Axie inflation rate, and the fact that SLP creates Axies, and if the number of Axies is growing too fast, or the Axie inflation rate is out of control, like that in the end is going to be what devalues SLP, when you can create something with SLP that's not rare. So
Mhm.
do you feel like the real long-term fix even to the value of SLP is adding these deflationary mechanics
Yeah,
to
we need to add
Axies
crafting and syncs, but we can't do that right now,
until
right?
until there's
Like
Axie
it's an
land?
alpha, right? So we can't allow for progression before the game is launched. Does that make sense? Uh, so yeah, like we need to add syncs, but right, like we've been around for 4 years as well without a
Hmm.
sync.
Hmm.
Am I surprised that we've gotten this far without right actually upgrading and things like that? To be
Hmm.
honest, yes, right. Like
Hmm.
I always thought that that would be really crucial. I think like the community also think that that's crucial. It's just been a testament to how fast we've grown and how fast we've been able to grow, that we've
Hmm.
been able to grow this fast in a growth dependent system, right? But yeah,
Hmm.
long term, we definitely need to make Axie more fun. We
Hmm.
definitely need to add these resource syncs.
Hmm.
These are all mission critical things.
Yeah,
And
but for now, you guys don't.
thankfully we now, thankfully we now have the ability to do it.
Hmm.
Uh, I think also the decks will also be key
Hmm.
in addressing this.
Hmm.
I'll leave that as a surprise and the exact mechanisms.
Hmm. Okay, cool. So, but for right now, you guys don't feel like there's any like super immediate issue with the Axie inflation rate. Like it
We never
seems.
think like that. People used to freak out about Axie inflation when
Hmm.
Axies hit, when we had the 10,000th Axie. But like,
Hmm.
there's only 200 people who own Axies, and there's 10,000 Axies, right? We've been
Yeah.
having this thing with this debate, and yes, it's possible that right, like inflation outstrips demand.
Hmm.
Uh, for periods of time, and then those are healthy corrections that allows people, it allows like the short-term thinkers to leave the ecosystem and to be
Hmm.
replaced by more skilled people, more long-term thinking people, right? So
Yeah.
like we need economic volatility. It can't just be there's no such thing as an economy in the world, in the real world, that can be designed artificially to go up.
Hmm.
We're still right, like, but we believe that if we have the best people, if we have the best game,
Hmm.
we have the best long-term thinkers, and we have the best mechanic design over time, right? Like we'll do what we've done for over the last 4 years.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. And I do want to say for the record that I do have faith in the Sky Mavis team. I just keep pushing because it's something that I feel is very vital and I want to keep making it
Yeah,
known
for
to you
sure.
guys. But I know
It's
that you
real.
guys
This is
understand
also
that.
right. Like Axie is an organism, right? Or the entire community, it sees the risks, right? And it's like, okay, like how are we addressing these risks? How are we addressing these risks? Like
Hmm.
Sky Mavis, tell us how you're addressing the risks with us,
Hmm.
right? It's so basically it's like a nervous system reaction almost, where
Yeah.
right people, there's this, okay, we see a danger, okay, like we need to talk to Sky Mavis because right, they're leaders within the ecosystem and they can help us like ward off this danger. So it's, I think it's
Hmm.
healthy.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't think people are being alarmist. I think they're
Yeah.
just they want to understand the strategy,
Hmm.
so that everyone in the hive mind can understand the approach and also communicate that to outsiders when they ask the hard questions.
Hmm. Definitely. And I do yeah, I appreciate the fact that the Sky Mavis team has already accomplished very difficult things, which is why I have faith you guys will be able to continue accomplishing difficult things going forward. All right, so I want to jump now into the specific question about whether or not a new player who's thinking about starting Axie Infinity maybe has been watching some of my videos, maybe some of Axie on the Moon's videos, and at following Axie people on Twitter, and is just like really curious about play to earn gaming and NFT games, and they're wondering, should I start Axie Infinity? Like, is it still worth getting in now? Did I miss the explosion already? So I feel like people hear two major reasons why not to get into Axie Infinity first. So I would like to like bring those up to you and hear your response to those. But then I have three really strong reasons that I also want you to be able to touch on why I think Axie is still very much worth getting into. And yeah, so let's jump into the first of the two reasons why people on the internet FUD spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt and say like it's not worth investing in Axie or starting Axie, and that's that there's better games coming. They point to like Star Atlas, which has crazy art, and Alluvium, which is supposed to be coming out soon, and they're like, these games are going to crush Axie. So explain why that is not true.
Sure. I mean, I'm really excited for other games to enter the ecosystem. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, Axie is really the only option. So it's going to be awesome to have others enter the ecosystem. but they're starting really far behind us. And
Yeah.
I think like those games, right? They're being built, right? Like, oh, we're gonna have like really amazing graphics, things like that. But that also they're not being built for mobile. So right, it's like it's a little bit of a different audience, so they're not necessarily going for the same audience as us.
Mhm.
But yeah, I hope that they do well. Like, I believe that right now it's not about fighting over, right, the same user base. Like, I hope
Mhm.
that they'll bring more types of archetypes of users into the space and try awesome
Yeah.
experiments. If
Mhm.
those experiments go well, we can incorporate them into our own game as well. Right now, we're the only ones running experiments with a live community, so that actually
Mhm.
limits our ability to go even faster when it comes to design choices.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think like those games, I'm really excited for them. Like
Mhm.
our community, right? Like we have exposure to them like through, right, like YGG and things like that
Mhm.
as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I hope that they do well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the point that I made in the video that I created about whether Axie was worth getting into to respond to this point was by saying that like Axie Infinity, you guys are creating your own new games that are going to replace
Mm.
Axie Infinity as it exists today. So like Axie Infinity has its own games coming to replace Axie Infinity. Like you guys are continually innovating, and because you're innovating, like you're gonna innovate out the old card game. You're gonna you have Battles version 2 coming. You have Lunacia coming. Talk a little bit about those and why those are going to ensure that like there's still a lot of value in the Axie ecosystem going forward.
Yeah, so historically, whenever we've made Axie more fun and upgraded the content and made it more accessible, it's been really awesome for the people joining the community.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an upgraded battle system V2, Axie Infinity Origin, that's slated for release. I'm not going to give an exact timetable, but it's
Mm-hmm.
near the top of the pipeline in terms of the things that we're expecting to release to the public. We
Okay.
think that it's going to make Axie more fun, more skill based, faster paced, more accessible, and it will also have a free to play tutorial, which
Mm-hmm.
basically will allow people to try out Axie. They won't be able to earn anything, but they'll be
Mm-hmm.
able to figure out if they like the game, how the what the archetypes of Axies are. Before they actually get started. One of the biggest problems when I try to get people, my real life friends, involved with Axie right now is, they don't necessarily know what a tank is, what what the
Mm-hmm.
different classes do. It's hard to understand by reading or even watching YouTube tutorials. It's better to learn that kind of stuff by doing, right? So
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I think that Battles V2 is going to be a huge growth catalyst. I'm shooting for, I don't know. I think it can make Axie the biggest mobile game in the world. And so that
Mm-hmm.
would be around 15 million daily active users. Right now, we're at just around
Mm-hmm.
2.2 million.
Mm-hmm. Wow,
So yeah,
that's pretty exciting.
I think it's going to be a huge upgrade. And yeah, whenever we've upgraded the content, we've become more accessible and we've been able to reach and access a new audience. I think the Dex is also a really important upcoming launch that's going to make sure that we have a lot of liquidity for our in-game resources,
Mm-hmm.
Axis, and SLP, and it's going to make it easier to breed. And it's also going to ensure deeper liquidity for SLP, which should lead to more stability. So I think that's going to be really crucial. And then we also have land,
Mm-hmm.
which is this upcoming game mode, which will allow you to harvest resources, build up structures, build up a little village, fight for control of resources, build alliances, and
Mm-hmm.
even long term build experiences that others can access on top of your land.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're just right. Like there's still so much to build with Axie. Our approach to building is a little bit different, I think, than conventional game studios, right? We're very community centric. We build in public alongside the community. These days, right, like a lot of game studios, they build for 4 to 5 years without, right, like showing anything. And
Mm-hmm.
then, they kind of build in a black box and then they release, maybe a public beta or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we believe that we're still in alpha. We'll probably be in alpha for 5 to 7 years. And then right, like Pokemon also, it took from 1987 I believe to 1996
Mm-hmm.
for it to be fully built out. So I think like we're also dealing with a certain that level of timeline before, right? We're actually where we want to be in terms of the content and the fun and the experiences that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You can think of Axie as, right, each Axie or each team of Axies is a ticket to a world full of experiences. Right now, it's quite basic, right? You can battle, you can sell them, you can breed, but in the future, there's going to be so much more that you can do through these alternative game modes. Some of them will be built by Sky Mavis, but the thing that we believe will be the most revolutionary is when we are just one of many game developers, right? Where the community is building games. Each guild might have a game studio, for example, that builds Axie-related mini games.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I think that answers the question really well, that like better games are coming. Like Axie Infinity is not sitting still. And it's like the same thing that people like said about Tesla. Like the competition is coming. Other people are building electric cars. Well, it's like Tesla is also improving their own electric cars and maintaining their lead. Tesla doesn't just sit still and let everyone else overcome a 5-year lead. So I think that's important to remember about Axie Infinity too. You guys are still progressing. You guys are still innovating in the space. Like this is still so new, and there's still so many things that like everyone is learning. Like no one has all the answers yet about how to run a sustainable play to earn economy, about how to do any of this. But because you guys have this head start and have been able to experience with so many things, like you guys just have a knowledge advantage and a player base advantage, and also a lot of funding now. And none of those things I think should be underestimated. All right, so
yeah, I think it's still really. I'll say it too is we have to keep working hard, not just Sky Mavis, but as an entire community. It's possible that, yeah, like our position is not guaranteed in the market, and I think it's okay to say, hey, there's going to be a lot of competitors, and there's a lot of like amazing products that are coming. It's not just up to us to deal with that. It's up to all of us as Axie community members to work together to make sure that we remain number one.
All right, cool. So the second FUD reason that people give not to start Axie Infinity is the whole pyramid scheme. So what would you say to people that are like worried about like the value of their Axies if they buy in, that they might lose value, or like that are worried about the long-term sustainability of the economy? I know we already touched on this at the beginning, but just like what would you say to a new player who that's a genuine fear for them?
So I'll say, right, is like in a traditional game, when you're spending money, you're guaranteed to lose 100% of it.
True. That's a very good point.
So right, like basically what we're doing, we're not saying that this is guaranteed to make everyone money forever, but what we're doing in essence is we've cut out the game stores, which are the app stores. We've cut out Steam, right? We've cut out the game publishers, right? These are the people that are traditionally taking like 70% of the money that's made by a game. We're taking that 50 to 70% and we're sharing that with the community.
Yeah.
Right. And we think that that's a far healthier model. And we don't think that it's so hard to grasp. Right. So I think like there's no guarantee that there's no guarantee that about anything related to the economy with Axie. But we believe that it's a huge upgrade on the status quo, which is basically right for gamers to have no freedom, no property rights. And we're going to a system that's built on freedom and property rights. We think that this is going to change the way that games are built. And we think that it's going to create like we need to think about Axie as more than just a game. We can see it as an entire civilization with an economy, even a language, right? There are certain things that Axie community members say that only make sense to other Axie community members around culture, entertainment. So when you think about it like this, right, it's a little bit more complex, and we're just, in my opinion, at the start of building this really advanced and new type of society that hopefully will last for decades or hundreds of years.
And I 100% believe that you guys are like literally the first rocket to take off in the play to earn gaming revolution. And I really believe that it's a revolution that's happening, and traditional games, like their time is limited. And like there will always be some people that want to play something for fun that they get no value out of, but it's going to be like when the automobile replaced the horse. And like, yeah, some people still own horses, still like use horses, but for the most part, everyone moved on to the new technology because it's so much better for both. I think the game companies long term. I think it's also better for players long term, getting real ownership, being able to get value out of the ecosystem. So you guys are really pioneers in this ecosystem. And I don't think players should expect everything to be perfect, everything to be worked out 100%. You have to have like faith in the team, see the track record, see that like they've already solved very difficult problems and will continue doing so. I think that's the most important thing to keep in mind as a new player that's interested in starting Axie Infinity. All right, cool. So now I want to move on to the 3 positive reasons that I think are really strong reasons why it is worth getting into Axie Infinity. And the first one we've touched on a little bit, but it is fun, and there's more fun coming. And right now, Axie prices, like, they're a little bit lower than they were at one point. And oftentimes when prices are down, like, that's a good time to buy in. And like achieving the fun of Axie and being able to experience the fun of Axie is now cheaper than it's been for a number of months. Do you have, I don't know, anything to add to that?
Yeah, that's also right. Like the volatility, right? Recently, NFTs are starting to cool off a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's been good. That's healthy. It creates these opportunities for true believers to jump in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, cool. So then the second thing I'd like to touch on as a reason to start Axie is people who are worried about like other games popping up and like Axie assets losing value, like Mystic Axies or land losing value. I think oftentimes forget that Axie Infinity has a lot of historical significance as the first mainstream play to earn game, which is going to give it strong collectible value. And I think like even my grandkids will think it's very cool to like own a Mystic Axie or own land in Axie Infinity, for example, because it's going to be remembered as the pioneer, as the first massive play to earn game. So how do you think about that side of Axie Infinity?
Yeah, I think we're making history,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the collectible assets within the ecosystem. I think that we can definitely do more to make them more exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And right, like it's one of the things that we have to balance, right? Is like balancing the collector archetype and the PvP battler and the scholar and the farmer, the content creator.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different archetypes and ways to play Axie. But I think I agree with you that Axie is the first. It's the first NFT project to hit $1 billion in volume, the first to hit $2 billion in volume,
Mm-hmm.
first to hit 1 million daily active users. It's the first to hit 2 million daily active users.
Yeah.
It's right. It's really the first to basically bring in at the hundreds of thousands, in the hundreds of thousands, people into this industry that have never used crypto before.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we are making history. We are doing things that are very historically important,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not necessarily up to us to decide that. It's up to history.
Yeah.
And but I do think that people currently look at us like this, and that feeling will grow more and more over time as the significance of this movement is more, just more obvious
Yeah.
as time goes on.
Yeah. So I agree with you that the collectible aspect and some of the collectible assets in Axie Infinity are just so cool.
You know why? Actually, I just had a realization.
Okay.
The reason that we're not seen as the first or that historically significant yet is that we're the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
We're kind of the only relevant one for now. So this is also why I'm excited for others to launch, because all of a sudden, well, once there's others, we'll be this first, right?
Yeah.
Right
And
now we're the first and only.
yeah, and others look at, like, a lot of people look at the addition of new play to earn games as a bad thing for Axie, but actually it could turn out to be a very good thing for Axie because it will grow the entire ecosystem of crypto gaming. And a lot of people who got into play to earn gaming because of a different game that launched might discover Axie and join Axie later. So just the entire space growing could also drive a lot of people to Axie, on top of helping kind of give Axie that historical significance of being the first when there are finally others that that have like significance. Okay, so I had an idea just talking about that collectible side of things. Well, actually, it was someone in my Patreon Discord who had this idea. Have you guys thought about like separating Axie births into seasons? So maybe there's like season one Axies or season two Axies that kind of like adds to the collectible value of certain Axies by dating them towards a specific time period and like giving an OG status to Axies that have existed for longer than others.
Mm.
And I think that could also help with the whole inflation thing because it's like, well, there's no more season two Axies being born, so I know that that is.
We're already starting to see this with like low IDs, right? Like
Mm,
in the future, like 6-digit Axies, right?
mm,
They're common now. Around like maybe 16% of all Axies are 6 digits,
mm,
right? But then over time, they're going to become even rarer, right?
yeah.
So are there's already something like that with IDs? Obviously, also, right? Like we discontinued Japanese parts.
Mm,
Uh, so I think over time, more stuff like that happens. I think, yeah, doing more breeding events and more collectability, more
mm,
goals to breed towards. I think that's all like really important for sure.
yeah. Yeah. Just like something you could see in the store will just, I mean, make people excited. Like, oh, this is an early Axie. It's marked with this thing. Um, that would be cool. Even I don't know, adding something extra to normal Axies to give them a more of a feeling. But I agree, definitely the ID does matter, and people do look at that a
Mhm.
lot.
But I agree that right there could be more. There could be more done around collectability and making Axies seem special in their own little unique ways.
Mhm. Cool. All right. So then the third reason that I think is pretty significant for why it's worth starting Axie Infinity even now is the fact that Axie Infinity is the first real community owned game and it's supported by an incredible team. And as I said before, if you really believe in this idea of community owned gaming and um, like assets truly being owned by players instead of just being able to be deleted by gaming companies, like Axie is a very good project to support. And community owned games are not going to disappear very easily when the community does have some voting control and like a massive treasury. And there's a lot of things the community is going to have power to do in the future. Do you want to add or talk about that a little bit? Why is it significant that Axie is community owned?
Sure. So when a game gives freedom and property rights to its players, they start to do all these things that you would never have expected them to do that are unexpectedly amazing,
Mm,
right? So when we first started Axie, we started to see people make amazing content, right? Like they get tattoos, make musicals, make
mm,
rap, mostly Cloudwhite, but also it's doing that kind of stuff. But
mm,
then also people like Freak and Owl and Clumsier building tools, right?
mm,
And we realized, oh, like this is because they feel like this is their project, right?
mm,
They're contributing. And
yeah.
then, right, like later on, we saw, okay, like the creation of the scholarship, right,
Mm,
model, which is also driven by the community. So basically, when you give freedom and ownership to your community, they start to help you in unexpected ways. And
mm,
Axie is the first game that's really built to leverage the community in this way, but it requires a little bit of like an open mindedness, right? Because you're like, okay, we're
mm,
going to build and we're going to give more freedom to our community members. We're going to share more value with them and they're going to help. And
mm,
in the beginning, it seems unclear exactly how they'll help. But now
mm,
we have this entire ecosystem of content creators, artists,
mm.
uh, community developers,
Yeah.
streamers, YouTubers, uh, and people who are really helping and doing, let's say, a lot of the work in the network. And so it's not just Sky Mavis versus the world, right?
Mm,
It's Sky Mavis, the Axie community taking on the world.
mm,
So I think that gives us a huge advantage. And the thing is, Axie, right? We've been building since uh, 2018. We've been building this network effect of the community.
mm,
And if you're trying to, right, like it's going to be very difficult to build this type of community starting now because
mm,
right now the secret is out. Everyone knows, right, that, the NFT games can do this for you, do that for you, right?
mm,
But in 2018, when we started, it was it was a lot more speculative. It was a lot
mm,
more about doing something interesting and new. So do you want to build the base of your community with people who think that NFTs are interesting and
mm,
a new way of and a more interesting way of building games, for example, or do you want to, right, go with the people who are more short-minded and like looking for kind of fast gains. I think that's the problem that a lot of the newer games are going to face when they start to community build.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's all really cool stuff, and I thought it was pretty cool as well when you guys decided to award the early supporters of Axie Infinity with those AXS drops. I thought that was just like a really cool move. Unfortunately, I joined right after the deadline, but I still thought that was just so cool. But I have a question. You recently tweeted, and I retweeted it, that Axie Infinity needs creator links or needs creator codes. Is there any actual progress going on behind the scenes to try and set up anything like that to incentivize people to support the system even more than we're already incentivized by holding Mystic Axies or holding AXS and other stuff?
Yeah, we think that that's really important, and we're working on a creator program internally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, some sort of referral link would be really important for that.
Mm-hmm. All right,
So I think we actually, so we have more clarity around it actually now because of the recent settlement between Apple and Epic Games, right? So now we can have a link from the app that stores a cookie, right, and redirects to the web app where someone could make a purchase, and that purchase could be, right, like a portion of that could be credited to whoever, right, referred the person that clicked the button, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think that future just got a little bit more clear, I think, because of that ruling.
Cool. Yeah, well, I'm very much looking forward to that. Obviously, as a creator, that's where my incentives are. But do you have anything else that you want to share with the 600 people that are watching right now, excited about Axie Infinity or thinking about starting beyond what we've already covered so far?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think like over the next 9 months or so are going to be really important. The next 9 months are going to be a really important period for the Axie Nation. And right, if you think that this is a community, a mission, a cause that resonates with you, definitely come and join us. And yeah, like if you're currently already a member of the Axie community, I would want to say that each and every one of you is important to us. We believe in you, and we're really excited for the upcoming launches.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jiho, for coming on and talking with my community. I always appreciate having you, and it's so cool to see the progress of Axie Infinity even over the last year, as you guys have implemented so much with Ronin. Like, wow, that really helped explode your guys' growth, solving so many of the expense issues that you guys were dealing with at the beginning of the year. And then it was also very impressive watching you guys fix the server issues. I know that was a really big commotion for a while, people unable to log in and play, but you guys honestly dealt with that pretty fast, and I feel like stabilized the servers in very good time. So it was impressive seeing that. And yeah, I've just enjoyed watching you guys as a team mature and just tackle issue after issue and prove that you guys are here for the long run and building something that is going to last a really long time. So thanks for joining, as always, Jiho. I know I have a video coming up tomorrow on the MMR change that's not super positive, but I appreciate that you guys are like allow me to be honest about how I feel about certain things as a member of the community, and just still remember that I am for you guys. I am supporting the Axie project. I found you guys early and thought there was something special here, and I still believe that. So yeah, just thanks for what you guys are building. You guys are part of the reason why I'm excited to wake up every morning. So I think it's
awesome,
important.
Man. Well, that means a lot to me, and yeah, thanks for inviting me. And yeah, let's just keep pushing hard. Obviously, it's not always going to be a smooth and easy road, but it's going to be worth it. So yeah.
Cool.
Let's
Well, thank you very much. And if you guys enjoyed this interview, remember to leave a big thumbs up. That'll help out the interview a ton in the YouTube algorithm, dropping those thumbs up on your way out. And then if you're not subscribed yet to On-Chain Gaming and you've watched this far, what are you doing? Make sure you hit subscribe and click that notification bell. And then if you want to stay up to date with Axie Infinity, there are links in the description. Check out the Axie Infinity website, join the Axie Infinity Discord and interact with the community and see how cool of a community Axie Infinity really has. Also, you can follow Jiho on Twitter at Jiho_Axie. He makes a ton of great tweets. I love following your feed, Jiho. You can also follow me on Twitter at Jake Browatsky. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, hopefully we have Jiho on again in a couple months. And yeah, it'll be a good time. Hopefully you guys enjoy playing Axie. And I'm really looking forward to Battles version 2. I think it's going to be super exciting.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.
Yeah, bye everybody.
Peace.